what are some of the ethical issues and concerns around AI?
Ethics issues is another big question. There's certainly many capabilities in automation and in AI that are emerging that are going to lead to all kinds of abilities to track humans endlessly, to identify actions and behaviors way beyond what's been possible before. And so we need to have a keen eye on what's allowed and what isn't allowed, and how these technologies can be used and impact society.
There are always ways to work around this, because technology fundamentally, since the very beginning of human history, there have been technologies used for good purposes and bad purposes. No matter how much of a good intent you put behind using something for good, it's going to be used and misconstrued in some way to be used for bad. Like fire. It's great for cooking food, but it's also great for burning people's houses down. But at the same time, you can use it to chase away the people who are burning people's houses down. So that's a good analogy for what we're doing with machine learning. It'll be used for bad things by humans, but we will use machine learning to counter that, but it won't itself turn into this horrible thing for machines or for humans.
The key point from my viewpoint is to think of ethics in artificial intelligence not as something that somebody else is going to do in the future. It's something we need to apply today. So, for example, today, police forces in countries like China and soon in Russia are starting to use glasses that do image recognition and do face recognition, identify a wanted person with warrants, for example, in a crowd, and be able to better enforce law and maybe arrest a person or investigate this farther. That's a technology that's in use today. It can be used for great good of reducing the crime, simplifying the job of the law enforcement, or it can be used for nefarious reasons for a dictatorial government to enforce their will on the people, on arresting and suppressing dissent, on suppressing democracy and other. It really is. Ethics is not a technological problem. Ethics is a human problem. It's something that all of us need to care about. Recognizing this, leading companies in AI, in the space of artificial intelligence, have banded together to create, consortia. So companies like Apple, IBM, Amazon, Microsoft, DeepMind, Google, all got together and they're all advocating the best ways of applying ethics to this technology.
It's interesting, particularly in self-driving cars, there's a lot of ethical questions that are emerging that people are very worried about. The classic one is the trolley problem. If a car has to decide which accident to cause, right? If it has to pick between running into a sign and hurting passengers in the vehicle, or running into pedestrians on the side of the road but potentially saving the passengers of the vehicle, how do we make those decisions? And so it's a really interesting area, lots of open questions there, and it's unclear how we can properly define regulations so that different companies that are producing these vehicles all behave in a consistent ethical manner that meets our expectations.
There are also many concerns when it comes to, for example, self-driving cars. Like, for example, if there's a self-driving car and it has the option to injure another person on the road or the person in the car, what would it choose? Or maybe a pedestrian. Now, the thing is, it might seem like a very, very difficult decision as to who would be to blame for the choice that the car makes. But again, we've faced these sorts of issues throughout history. Like, for example, if you take a look a few hundred years ago when humans would drive horse carriages, right? Let's just say there was a horse carriage driver and there was a pedestrian that made a weird noise or did something that the horse didn't like and the horse trampled the pedestrian. Who do you blame? You can't blame the carriage driver because, he didn't have any control over the situation. The horse can't be punished. What's the point of that? It can't understand. It doesn't have that sort of long-term memory planning ability. And the pedestrian, they can't be blamed because they were just doing what they were doing in public. That's not legal. And so it's very, very difficult to work around these issues. But again, looking into the past, seeing into the future, we will be able to work around them.